Introduction. From Lebanon's borders to Syria's battlefields in 2011, Syria erupted into civil war as peaceful protests against President Bashar al-Assad's regime escalated into a brutal conflict. What began as a domestic uprising soon morphed into a proxy war involving regional and global powers. One of the most surprising developments in the war was the involvement of Hezbollah, a Lebanese political and militant organization known primarily for resisting Israeli occupation. For Hezbollah, entering the Syrian war was not just about defending an ally, it was about safeguarding its strategic interests, Iran's regional influence, and its own survival. This story examines how Hezbollah transitioned from a local Lebanese resistance force to a key player in one of the most complex wars of the 21st century. It explores the group's motivations, operations on the ground, and the long-term repercussions of its involvement in Syria. The decision to intervene. Why Syria mattered to Hezbollah. Hezbollah's intervention in Syria was not a sudden or random decision. Syria has long been a crucial component of Hezbollah's logistical network, providing an essential land corridor for weapons and supplies from Iran. If the Assad regime were to fall, Hezbollah feared that its lifeline to Iranian support would be severed. Moreover, a collapse of Assad's government could empower Sunni Islamist groups hostile to both Hezbollah and Iran, threatening the group's existence in Lebanon. Iran, Hezbollah's main backer, also viewed the conflict through a strategic lens. Protecting Assad was vital for maintaining the axis of resistance, a coalition of forces opposed to Israel and Western influence in the region. Hezbollah's entry into the Syrian conflict was thus a calculated move to prevent the disintegration of this alliance. Early stages, covert operations and strategic planning, 2011-2013. At the outset of the Syrian Civil War, Hezbollah's involvement was limited to logistical and advisory roles. Its fighters trained Syrian government forces and provided intelligence support. However, as the conflict escalated and Assad's forces began losing ground to opposition groups, Hezbollah was compelled to increase its involvement. By 2012, Hezbollah had deployed elite units to defend key religious sites, such as the Sayyida Zainab Shrine near Damascus, which held symbolic importance for Shia Muslims. The protection of these sites served as both a religious and strategic justification for the group's growing presence in Syria. Turning the tide. The Battle of Qusayr, 2013. The turning point in Hezbollah's involvement came with the Battle of Qusayr in 2013. Qusayr, a town near the Lebanese border, was a vital supply route for both Syrian opposition fighters and Hezbollah. Losing Qusayr to rebel forces would have cut off Hezbollah's access to crucial supply lines. In May 2013, Hezbollah launched a major offensive alongside Syrian government forces to recapture the town. The battle was fierce, with Hezbollah fighters employing tactics honed in Lebanon's guerrilla warfare. They used underground tunnels to infiltrate rebel positions and relied heavily on artillery barrages to soften enemy defenses. After weeks of intense fighting, Qusayr fell to Hezbollah and Syrian forces, marking a significant victory for the Assad regime. The success at Qusayr sent a clear message: Hezbollah was no longer just a Lebanese militia, it was now a regional force capable of influencing the course of a foreign war. The role in Aleppo. Shaping the fate of the war, 2016, after Qusayr, Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian war deepened. The group played a pivotal role in the Battle of Aleppo, one of the most consequential battles of the entire conflict. Aleppo was divided between government forces and opposition groups, with the outcome of the battle likely to determine the war's future trajectory. Hezbollah fighters worked closely with Syrian, Iranian, and Russian forces to encircle and eventually retake the rebel-held areas of the city. Their experience in urban warfare, gained through years of conflict with Israel, proved invaluable. Hezbollah units used small squads to clear neighborhoods house by house, relying on snipers and IEDs to counter opposition fighters. The fall of Aleppo in December 2016 was a turning point in the war. With the city under government control, the Assad regime regained the upper hand, and Hezbollah solidified its reputation as a decisive force in the conflict. Hezbollah's impact on the war's outcome. Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian Civil War had far-reaching consequences. The group's military contributions helped stabilize the Assad regime at a time when it appeared on the brink of collapse. Without Hezbollah's intervention, it is unlikely that the government would have been able to reclaim key territories like Qusayr and Aleppo. However, Hezbollah's presence in Syria also had unintended consequences. Its involvement deepened sectarian divisions in Lebanon and the wider region, as many Sunnis viewed the group's actions as part of an Iranian-led Shia expansion. The war also took a heavy toll on Hezbollah's fighters, with hundreds of casualties reported. The human and political costs for Hezbollah. While Hezbollah's intervention in Syria yielded strategic gains, it came at a significant cost. The group's involvement strained its resources and exposed it to criticism from within Lebanon. Many Lebanese questioned why Hezbollah was fighting in a foreign war instead of focusing on domestic issues. The group's losses on the battlefield also sparked discontent among its supporters, especially as the war dragged on with no clear end in sight. Hezbollah's decision to intervene in Syria also complicated its relationship with other Lebanese factions. The group's actions heightened tensions with Sunni communities in Lebanon, who sympathized with the Syrian opposition. This sectarian divide threatened to destabilize Lebanon's fragile political system, forcing Hezbollah to tread carefully on the home front. Long-term repercussions. A new role for Hezbollah. The Syrian Civil War transformed Hezbollah from a Lebanese resistance movement into a regional military force. The group's involvement in the conflict expanded its capabilities and deepened its ties with Iran, making it a key player in Tehran's regional strategy. At the same time, the war altered Hezbollah's identity, raising questions about its role and priorities in Lebanon. As Syria slowly rebuilds, Hezbollah finds itself in a new position, one that is both advantageous and precarious. The group's enhanced military capabilities make it a formidable force, but its involvement in the Syrian war has also left it more vulnerable to domestic and regional pressures. Conclusion. A defining chapter in Hezbollah's history. Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian Civil War is a defining chapter in the group's history. What began as a limited intervention to protect strategic interests evolved into a full-scale military campaign that reshaped both the war's outcome and Hezbollah's role in the region. The group's actions in Syria demonstrated its ability to operate beyond Lebanon's borders, cementing its status as a key player in the Middle East's complex geopolitics. However, the war also exposed the risks of overreach. As Hezbollah navigates the post-war landscape, it faces new challenges, balancing its commitments to Iran and Syria with the demands of its supporters at home. For better or worse, Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian Civil War has transformed the group and the region, leaving a legacy that will shape the Middle East for years to come.